What is going on, guys? Shooting Dave here. So good to see your faces. Welcome back to the channel. Now today we're doing the second round of quaranTEAM editing. That's right, you're going to be taking some of my raw photos and concocting your own editing style on top of it. So what photo are we talking about today? Well, we're talking about a previous front cover for Japanese Performance magazine. That's right, the Pennzoil R33 Skyline that I shot and edited for Japanese Performance magazine back in August 2018. So quite a while ago. Now looking at this and looking at it again with fresh eyes, I'm not super stoked about the way it came about. You see, I don't really like the edit I did, and I feel like you guys could do a bit better. You see, there's a very short deadline when shooting this, and I shot many different ways of actually lighting the car, but I kind of settled on the look that I have now. However, I always knew there's a better way of doing it, so I'm stoked to see that some of you guys have actually picked up on that. However, if you're new to this site and you don't know who I am at Shooting Dave, a photographer from London that now lives here in Los Angeles, and I make photo and video editing tutorials. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, then please do consider subscribing. Now, before we jump into Photoshop and go through your edits, I just want to say, please don't skip forward and just see your review, because there's a lot of very talented photographers in here and a lot of people actually put a lot of effort into making these edits, so it would be very unjust for you to just skip past them. And also, you might see some cool photographers that you want to follow on Instagram, so do stick around and watch it all the way through. Anyway, enough waffling, let's jump into Photoshop and let's have a look at your edits. Okay, and first up we have Diego, who is Car PHCL, all the way from Chile, and this is his edit. So let's jump in and have a look at what he's done. Now, first off, straight off the bat, this is very much a me edit. This is how I probably and did edit the photograph for Japanese Performance magazine. So let's go in and have a look at how he's done. First of all, we're going to look at the car. So we're going to go around and inspect the car and see what's going on here. So overall, everything's looking very nicely balanced, very clean. No wayward reflections anywhere, so a nice job on there. Personally, for me, underneath the front bumper, I would have maybe darkened the ground a little bit, so this area around here, the light's been shined onto it, and I know you technically would light the ground through the front bumper. However, it's a bit distracting and I maybe would have darkened that down a little bit, but nice amount of detail going on in there. The wheels look good, side of the car looks great. That rear spoiler is completely nuts, but you've handled that really nicely. Looks like there's a slightly dodgy highlight here across the weather strip, so I maybe would have balanced that out a little bit. But yeah, the car itself is looking really good. So let's come back out and have a look at the environment. There's a nice amount of detail in there. You can really see what's going on. I'm not a super fan of this light over here. For me, it looks like it's either been recovered or it's neither on nor off, and it's kind of just a little bit distracting, and it doesn't really do a huge amount for me. So I probably would have got rid of that or turned it down or brightened it up, one of the two. And also there's not really a shadow that makes sense from that light source. So yeah, I perhaps would have got rid of that. As for the cars, you can see what's going on. There's a slightly distracting highlight up in this Ferrari up here, so I probably would have removed that as well. And this light on the Lamborghini, I'm not sure I'm a massive fan of that either. But overall, a really nice edit, Diego. Well done, and thank you for coming all the way from Chile. I really do appreciate that. Now we have Dustin from Send It NW on Instagram. He's a good guy, nice talented artist as well, so some great work from him, and this is his edit. So let's go and have a look and see what he's got. Overall, I really like the moody vibe of that. It's definitely how I like to edit my photos. Nice and bold and punchy, super dark areas, and a moody kind of vibe going on, and you kind of smash that. I really like that. So let's come in and have a look at the car and see what you've done with that. Okay, the paint, yellow paint looks real nice. Nice work on there. Spoiler looks good. Cool. I like the side. For me, the front bumper looks a little bit dead. I know there's some exposures with some light streaks across some of the louvres on that front bumper, so maybe that would have been nice to include, even if it was just very subtle. I like the fact that you've got it nice and moody and dark down there, but maybe just pull out some of those details so you can actually see or suggest what is going on in there. But overall, really nice. Now, if we come back out and have a look at the car, to me there are two areas on the car that look a little bit bright, and that's the area around the number 23 on the side of the car, and also this area up on the roof. Now, the roof, is a bit that bothers me most. On the number 23 doesn't bother me that much. I can live with that. But this area on the roof, it doesn't really make sense for it to be that bright. So maybe just darken that down a little bit. But other than that, this is a really nice edit. And you've decided to keep the light in there as well. I mean, I did say in the last one that maybe we'll get rid of it, but actually you've punched up that intensity of that light, so it makes a bit more sense having it in there. So I quite like that as well. I've just noticed something on this Ferrari over here, little made you look. I like that. I like the little details that people put in there. So that's really nice. I like the fact the background is shut down a little bit. We have like the blue skies out there, so it's not quite pitch black. There is some detail going on beyond the windows. So yeah, nice work, Dustin. Okay, now we have Edwin. Now this is completely different to what the last two people have done. This is a very graphical looking shot. Can't comment too much on the creative element of it because it's very, very subjective, but you've got this like wandering line going through. Personally, I would have liked to have seen it come and extend out the front of the car a little bit more. I feel that would have been pretty cool. To me, it doesn't make sense having it loop around in the middle of the car. I'd like to see it go from bottom left all the way to top right. But anyway, let's go and have a look at the car, seeing as I know a little bit more about that. To me, the car looks a tad underexposed. If you have a look in Dustin's one, where it's very vibrant and contrasty and bright, and I feel like that kind of exposure on the car would have lent itself better to this graphic element you've got going on here. It's very cool, but for me, the car kind of lets it down a little bit here. You've got some environmental reflections, which look a little bit messy, and the car, yeah, just looks a little bit patchy in the way it's lit. Not to criticize you too much, but like I feel like if you'd blown the highlights or just boosted up the intensity of the car, it would have suited your graphical look a lot more. But anyway, Edwin, that is a very nice shot, and his Instagram is edwinserrano.photography, so do check out his work. Moving on, we have Gerda, all the way from Scotland. This is Swedge Design on Instagram. Now, he's a very talented 3D artist. I look up to him. He has some incredible work, so do check out his work. It is very worthy of looking at. So let's have a look at his one. Now, this is what I was talking about when I said there's two ways that I shot this car. There's light sticks on the ground and traditional light painting. And Gerda Pierre has gone with the alternative way of lighting that I was hoping someone would pick up. And what he's done here is really nice and very clever. He's changed the color of the lights so they're blue to contrast the yellow paint of the car, so that looks really cool. I'm super happy he's done that. Let's go in and have a look. Yeah, see, look, these look cool. I really like the kind of flaring and pooling and like giving this soft haze light down there. So kind of like a fake Kino light. It looks really nice. So looking around the paint, you've kept some of the environmental reflections coming in through the windows. I perhaps would have kept what's going on behind the windows if you're going to keep those environmental reflections, but that's a personal thing. The paint looks a little bit orange, but that might be because of the overall grade on this. It's kind of a blue vibe to it. I probably would have actually matched this light up on the wall with the light sticks on the ground. Maybe that's something you did and didn't like. But however, overall, that looks really nice. Nice work, Gerda. Moving on, we have Yanni and Yanni Kuniadi on Instagram. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. Please don't be too mad at me if I got it wrong. And this guy's all the way from Indonesia, which is rad. I didn't know I had people following me in Indonesia. So welcome and thank you so much for joining. Now, let's have a look at your edit. First of all, I love what you've done with this. Looking at it from far away, this looks fantastic. So I want to dive in and see how you've got on with this. So let's have a look at the car. Now the paintwork looks flawless. I love what you've done with this front bumper. That's really nice, nicely described, just the right amount of detail in there. Yeah, paint looks real good. Roof looks pretty cool. Down the side looks nice. I just want to come back out and look at this environment because there's so much going on in here. There's some very subtle little changes and it looks really nice. I love this red light, shifting that to red on the wall. That's a real good look. Very contrasty, kind of leads you through the image nicely. You've got these tiny, just the right amount of light on the Ferrari and the Lamborghini up there, just letting you know that they're there but not being too overt with it and not showing them off. And you've actually changed the environment through the windows. You can see that you've actually swapped out the environment as well. So that looks really nice. I love the way you've done that. And they're quite nicely balanced in there as well, so that looks really cool. Now, overall, Yanni, I really like your edit. This is really nice, probably one of my favorite ones so far. Great job. Moving on. Next we have John from John Shoots Things on Instagram, and this is vastly different to what everyone else has done. This is a great image. It's like There's so much going on. Let's go in and have a look at what we've got. So first of all, it's a huge panoramic, which I've not seen anyone do with my images before. We've got the skyline down here. It's desaturated, but then we've had it kind of shifted and ghosted around the side, so you can see some of the colour going on there. That's really cool. And it looks like it's on some sort of road outside. What we got going on here? We've got a lake, we've got a yacht. There's so much going on. I honestly don't know what to make of this. There's so much going on. It's so different. I don't know where it's based or what it's supposed to be a collage of, but I really like it. It's so vastly different, John. Like, that is a very creative take on my image. So well done there. I really like it. You kind of made me like speechless, to be honest. I don't know what to say. That is really cool though, John. I really like it. So now we have Joshua, or Josh Vin 2J from South Africa. What up, South Africa? Thanks for joining along. So let's go in and have a look at the car. First of all, the environment looks pretty cool. Looks like we've got some sort of hazy light going on in there. So I want to go in and have a little bit closer look at the car. So how's the car looking? Car's looking pretty nice. We've got some busy reflections in a few areas where it looks like you may have brushed out one pass for another, and some of it's still showing through. So first of all, I'd maybe like tighten up your masking a little bit if you're going to do that, and blend exposures. Just make sure that if you're removing a highlight, you remove all of it, or at least tidy it up, because over here we've got this kind of white highlight going off into darkness, and it kind of makes the yellow look a little bit brown and muddy. But that's one thing just to look at, and you'll get used to that in time. The rest of the car is looking very nice. That rear spoiler's handled well. I probably would have cloned out this little reflection across the rear spoiler. That I don't think does much for the car, and it kind of distracts a little bit. However, it could make sense of this light back here, so maybe that was your thinking behind it, and I could be wrong. Looking at the environment, we've got some sort of yellow cast going on down here. So kind of like a yellow smoke, I'm guessing. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of putting that much smoke in my images. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Personally, I prefer it if it's like an outdoors environment and it's like actual haze or mist. And in here, I'm not sure it works for me, but if you like it, then I'm all for it. You shut down the cars up there, that's pretty cool. Like what you're doing there. I probably would have toned down what's going on outside the windows. That looks a little bit distracting, like it's kind of competing with the car. I like the fact that you've actually shifted it to more of a blue hue, so it kind of contrasts the car as well, which is actually nice creatively. But I probably would have darkened it down a little bit, because when you look at the center of the image, you've got this lovely bright front of the car, and then immediately above it you've got the bright outdoors. So yeah, so maybe I would have just toned down those windows back there. Other than that, let's have a look. One more look over the image. This front wheel looks great. Love what you've done down the side of the car. That's really nice. I perhaps would have cloned out this highlight over here in the panels. To me, I think that's a little bit distracting. Any bright sources. Basically, once you're finished with an image, Joshua, just have a look at it and then just squint your eyes a little bit. So when you squint, you can see where the bright points of the image are, and that will kind of give you a telltale sign. If it's not the car, then it probably wants to be the car. So if you've got any of those bright areas, then just tone them down. It's a really cheap way of balancing your images, but it kind of works. Nice job, Joshua. Next up, we have LashEnds from LashEnds work on Instagram. Now, this is a very cool edit. I like the fact it's kind of a focused spotlight over the car, so really making a big deal out of the car and kind of throwing the background into darkness. And there's nothing wrong with doing that at times. Too many times when light painting, I see just a car plonked on basically a black background, but it's nice to keep some of the environment in there, even if you're going to shut it down like this guy has. So let's come in, have a look at the car, see what we've got going on here. So it looks like you've used a couple of different passes to blend across the front fender. Personally, I like to see just one trailing highlight rather than having two, because it kind of makes it feel like there's two different body lines in the front wing that you're following there. So I would have maybe picked one or the other. However, blending them together, it looks like you've done a pretty nice job other than that. So maybe just clone out one of those lines. Let's have a look around the front bumper. This is all looking really nice, really well described. Like what's going on there. Over the hood, some messy reflections here in front of the louvers. Probably would have cloned those out. This is kind of an easy car paint to clone because it's a flat paint, and it's actually paint as well. It's not vinyl, for those of you wanting. This guy actually built it inside his shed, which is remarkable. It's all handmade and hand painted. Let's come around. Yeah, like the reflections over the roof. They're looking nice. This side on the right of the car over the rear arch looks a little bit bright for my taste. I probably would have just selectively darkened that area down using a curves adjustment layer and just masking in the areas and darkening it down a little bit. Other than that, that's looking really quite nice. So let's come back out and have a look at the environment again. Yeah, I really do like the environment. I see you removed the windows, which I think is a good choice, so nice work on there. You've got a little bit of blue cast coming through here. Personally, I would have just darkened that down a little bit or desaturated, because you got rid of the windows. It doesn't really make sense as to what this blue cast is coming from, so I probably would have darkened that down. But other than that, LashEnds, great job, nice work. Now we have Martin, or m.nick_photography on Instagram. This guy's all the way from Germany, and he actually took part in our previous challenge as well. So I know a little bit about Martin. He's actually a Blender artist, so that's a 3D artist for those of you who don't know. And first of all, you can tell that this ain't the original backplate, is it? No, he's made this backplate not from stock photography, not from comping in different pieces. This is actually a 3D background, so super cool. I admire the extra effort. So this is really cool. I was hoping that someone would actually do this as well. I kind of envisaged this sitting out in the pit lane, but out in this dark, moody track at night, this works really well as well. And you've kind of lit up the rumble strips, the red and white rumble strips, so they're like actual like LED panels, and I think that's quite a cool look. So I like the angle, I like the way it's planted in there. I know it's difficult to match a photographic car into a CG backplate. It's actually a lot easier the other way around. However, you've done a nice job. So let's come in. God, there's so much to take care of. Where should we start? I'm gonna come in for the car. Let's start with the car. So, lighting on the car looks real nice. Perfect amount of detail on the front bumper. That's what I'm talking about. I like these lines. You can describe what's going on there without it being too overt. Front wheel looks good. Down the side looks nice. Now the car's very evenly lit. You've actually removed any of the environmental reflections that were there and kind of replaced them with your own. So let's come back out and have a look. Yeah, I like this. So you've kind of actually made sense of the environmental lighting in your CG image as well. So it looks like we have a light coming up from up here, which is why you got this bright spot on this side of the car. You have one back here, which is kind of lighting up here, and there's probably one behind the camera as well. So I like the fact that you've kind of incorporated that into your CG as well, which is the sign of a good artist. So well done, Martin. I really like this. Great effort. I hope everyone else enjoys that. So go give Martin a follow on Instagram. Moving on. We have Matthew from Heel and Toe Photography on Facebook. He doesn't have an Instagram, he has a Facebook page instead. So go and check out his work on there. So let's have a look. First of all, I can notice that the background has been changed and we have some sort of gorgeous sunset and mountains coming through. So let's punch in and jump straight to that instead of the car. Yeah, it's some nice work. It is very sharp back there. Perhaps I would have actually softened it a little bit just so it's kind of, because it's in the distance, you'll get some depth of field going on in there. So yeah, I probably would have changed that. So it looks like you've done a good job of masking that one in. I like the way that looks. You've even color corrected the floor as well, so the color cast that's coming through the windows, you've actually color corrected. So that's a nice touch. Nice work, Matthew. Come in, let's have a look at the car. Paint looks good. It's a very tricky car to light. There's a lot of surface changes, a lot of angles, a lot of movement in that paint, and it's very difficult to actually get nice clean reflections. The front fender here, really nicely well described, so the wheel, front bumper looks great. There's quite a few reflections going on in the front. I probably would have been tempted to clone out maybe one or two of these, maybe this one here. This looks like an easy one to get rid of, probably would have done that. And I probably would have reshaped the tail end of this one here as well, because I feel like that's a little bit distracting. But other than that, that's looking real nice. Louvers are all well described. Lots of nice things going on there. Through the interior, just the right amount. Have you even colour changed the reflections on the roof? It looks like you have. Yeah, nice work, Matthew. Looking pretty cool. Like the fact that you've gone for the extra effort in changing the background. So nice work there. Well done, Matthew. Moving on. So now we have Miles at List My Cars on Instagram. Now, straight away, I like the way this is edited. It's very clean looking. And the first thing I noticed, purely because I shot this and I've been to this location a few times, is he's removed the windows. And I think that was a solid choice. That I found them quite distracting and I wasn't a massive lover. And yet you've completely removed them, which in my eyes, kind of leads you straight to the car and you're not distracted by those highlights in the background. So let's go in, have a look at the car. Now it looks like you've been very selective here about what highlights you've included on the car and which ones you decided to keep and which ones you decided to get rid of. Now on a solid car like this, it can be quite challenging because you can end up with the car just looking completely matte, like it's drawn on. However, you've kept just the right amount of reflections, in my opinion, on the car, so it's actually described very nicely. I like what you've done here with the front fender, just having this one line across there to show, yes, it is actually glossy, and no, it's not matte. So that's nice, I really like that. This front wheel looks, I love these tyres. I'm just obsessed with these tyres. They look real nice. Front bumper, look how clean that is. That is super nice. I perhaps would have kept a little bit more detail down in the louvres on the lower end of the front bumper. However, it looks real nice. I like what you got going on there. Oh, I just noticed St. Miles. I perhaps would have tightened up this masking around the corner. I know it's really nitpicky of me to go in, but I just noticed it. There looks to be like a slight haloing here where you've used a soft brush down the front bumper and it's kind of spilled onto the ground, so I would have maybe tidied that bit up. But other than that, I really can't fault you on the front of the car, other than maybe including a few little extra highlights across the lower portion. But it looks really nice. I love how the front of that car looks. The louvres look great, the hood looks great, and it's not too busy, it's all clean, super well described. That's nice. I like the fact you kept all that, actually, the side of this car. This might be my favourite side of the car that I've seen. It's very, very clean, nicely lit, and you actually see the shape in it where it got this round, like, nice haunches, and then it kind of flattens down into that race car side. And I like the way you've done that. That's real nice. Onto the rear spoiler as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And one thing that I've noticed that you've done different, Miles, compared to many other people, is you've actually left, as the car rolls away from the camera, like, so the far side of the fender, the far side of the hood, far side of the roof, you've actually let it plunge away into darkness, so it ties and beds into your background nicer. And I like the way you've done that. It looks really nice. That is a great solid image. Nice work, Miles. Moving on. Okay, so now we have Rudy from RDI_CNIE on Instagram if you're interested, and this is a completely different look to everyone else's. I love the colour scheme that's going on here. There's so much to take in here, so let's have a closer look and see what we got going on. So first of all, there's kind of like this psychedelic look. We've got some magentas going on, some purple, some blues, some teal, and that lovely yellow paint of the car. And you've actually gone like quite different in the way that you've lit the car, rather than going for like traditional lighting on it. You've gone for these like kind of pools and patches on the car, which sometimes can look awful, but I actually think you get away with here, Rudy. This is actually pretty cool. So let's go in and have a closer look at the car, and then we'll talk about the environment. Yeah, the front's nicely taken care of. Front bumper looks good. Perhaps would have darkened down areas that you can see through the front bumper, but that's just a personal thing. Front looks nice. The hood has got some, in my opinion, messy reflections. I probably would have got away with and removed some of those. The louvers look fine. I love the fact that you changed this light over here to magenta. That looks pretty cool. However, there looks to be some weirdness going on the wall here, so I perhaps would have changed that. And some strange bounce going on here. Like, I'm not sure how you've done this colour change. There's a lot going on. I like the fact that you've made sense of it though and kept it on some of these pillars. That's pretty cool. There's a little bit of a kick going on the Ferrari over there, and the Lamborghini. Then you've gone for this like lovely teal colour coming through the windows. So there's a lot to take on. However, when I look at it from all the way back here, it does look like there's a lot of clarity being pushed into the image. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of that. If you are, then fine by me, but for me, I would have maybe softened some of that clarity, because to me the car wants to be the hero here, and you've kind of pushed it into the background as well, which makes the background kind of compete a little bit too much with the car. But I like the multicolored colour scheme you got going on there. It's very different, very unique, and I like that. It's really cool. So nice work, Rudy. Okay, so now we have Shawn from Shawn Takes Pictures on Instagram. So if you haven't followed him, then make sure you check him out. And he's gone for this kind of edit with our R33 Skyline. So first thing I noticed straight off the bat is the cupboards have been changed to red to kind of emulate a snap-on tool chest, if you ask me. And I like that little change that you've done there, Shawn. Nice and subtle, but it's really cool. And I think it contrasts the car rather nicely. So good work there. So let's come in and have a look at the car itself and see what we got going on. So zoom in here. The paint looks nice and even. No ugly reflections. So that's looking pretty cool. One thing I have noticed is you've kept the rear of the car slightly hotter in its exposure, and I guess you've done that because you've left this light on in the shop as well, so it's as if the shop light is illuminating the car. So yeah, that's quite nice. Not seen anyone do that before, so that's pretty cool. However, if you come down to the front of the car, I would have perhaps filled in some of these areas underneath the car through the front spoiler that you can see. So if you're going to light the car from behind, there's going to be a shadow going forwards, and that means all of that area will be plunged into darkness. So I probably would have filled in those areas so they're not so distracting. And looking at the front, I probably would have color balanced it, some of these yellows a little bit. Over here it's a little bit brighter than in the center here, so whether you tweak the hue of the yellow a little bit so it matches, or you just darken the front of the car down so it looks like it ties in, and then I could buy into that whole being lit from behind effect. But other than that, that looks really nice. As for the rest of the background, you kind of shut it down so it doesn't compete too much with the car, but you're not plunging it all the way into darkness, so you're actually keeping some of that information in there. So nice job. I like the fact that you've actually done away with some of the saturation in the blue cast coming through the window, because I was never a fan of that from the start anyway. So really nice job there, Shawn. Great work. Moving on. Now we have Tiago from tagoheavydrums on Instagram. Tiago Heavy Drums, I want to know what is behind that. So leave a comment down below and explain your screen name to everyone, because I'm sure there is a story there. So let's have a look at what you've done here. Now you've obviously gone for this like huge pool of spotlight on the car, and I actually really like the way that looks. Personally, I feel like you could have just killed off those windows. I know they've been problematic for a lot of people, but I don't think they add anything here, and you could really shut them off and got rid of them entirely, and that would have helped kind of keep that spotlight effect that you got coming from the top left. So I quite like that. But let's go in and have a look at the car itself. So the paint looks nice. There's some nice clean reflections here. You've tidied up these reflections around the front, which looks good. Looking through the bumper here, you've got some nice reflections going on, but again I would have darkened the area behind the front grille, because I just think it's a little bit distracting and doesn't really add anything. And if you actually look, if we just come out a little bit, under here is actually brighter than the ground in front of the car, and that kind of just competes in the wrong way if you ask me. So yeah, I would have at least balanced this value here to this value down there. So other than that, the car is looking real nice. I probably would have darkened the roof down a little bit, because if you're going for like a flash gun or a spotlight effect on the car, then I'd expect the front of the car to be the brightest element and then just have the roof be a little bit darker. But other than that, that's pretty good. Let's come in here. Okay, so one thing, and I'm not singling you out, Tiago, on this, but I see a lot of people that do light painted images and they always fall into the same trap. Now, if you're plunging an area of the car into darkness like you are here, you have this heavy, deep, glorious shadow, and I really like that. However, what you've done is you've left a lot of illumination in the side of the car. Now, when you have a dark shadow and a bright car, it kind of makes it look like it's stuck on. So what I would have done is, I would have followed this line up the front fender, and I would have traced it down the side of the door and then kind of softened it towards the end. So basically anything below the shoulder line on the car starts getting darker, and that will make it look much more natural, like the light is rolling over the car and then into shadow, rather than kind of competing against the shadow and the bright car. So yeah, if you were just to soften or darken the side of the car and let it roll off towards the top, that would have helped sell in the idea that you've got this spotlight lighting the car and this dark shadow, and it won't make the car look stuck on. And that's only really my only criticism on this image, Tiago, and I'm not singling you out. Loads of people done it, and I'm including myself. I've done it in the past as well, but that's one thing I would have changed on this. So let's come back out and have a look at the image overall, and it really is nice. I just think with a couple of little tweaks, this will be a banger. This will be a great image. There's just a few things that you want to take care of, but yeah, great job, and thanks for following me all the way in Portugal. I really do appreciate it. Next up we have David. Good strong name. David Glessner Photo on Instagram, if you're not following him already. Now, he did actually enter the competition last time, and unfortunately he didn't make the cut into the video because I had so many entries to go through, but I promised him if I was to do another one I would include you. So David, here you are, here's your moment to shine. Now David here is going for the same sort of idea that Gerda and I had, where we would take those light sticks that are on the floor and use those to be the key light source. And he's actually gone one step further. Rather than making them all blue, we have a blue and yellow theme going on there. So that kind of nice opposite side of the colour wheel contrast. So super nice work here. I like what you've done. So straight off the bat, that's really cool. I like the fact you've actually decided to blank out the windows entirely, because I don't like them at all. And you've actually just made it nice and simple and minimalist and have them be white, so they're kind of silhouetting the background. So you've got this kind of stark silhouetted look with a coolish tone coming through, which is nice. And you've taken most of the colour out of the environment and only left it in the car, which I think creatively looks quite nice. So let's come in here and have a look at the car itself. Okay, so first of all we're going to go around the paint and have a look at how that's going on. Paint looks nice and the car looks really, really nice. But the only reason why I'm rushing through that is because I've actually noticed where you've got a blue light here, you have blue reflections in the car. Where you have a yellow light here, you have yellow reflections in the car. And when you have blue light down here, you've got blue reflections. So not only are you taking that idea, but you're actually creatively color shifting it, but then making sure that that light makes sense on the car itself. So that is nice work. That is a good eye for detail, David. I really do. I like what you've done there. Indeed, it's really nice. Again, yeah, yellow reflections in the side of the car, blue one being a bit more neutral, and yellow burning into the side of the car. And it looks like this blue one may have been lighting something up here, which is making a blue reflection in the car. So that is real nice, David. Great work indeed. I do like that a lot. Nice work, David. Glad you could make it into the video this time. And that's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know this has been a long video, but I really want to thank all of the artists that took the time to edit my raw files and then submit them. Without you guys, I could not have made this video, so I really do appreciate that. And thank you so much. I had no idea that so many of you were spread so finely around the world. I really am appreciative of that. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know down below. Perhaps you want to shout out your favourite artist in this video. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. I have been @ShootingDave, and I shall see you in the next one. See ya!